Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. Hey coach, do you offer one-time consultations with what I have been going on in my life? Right now, I don't believe I'm ready for coaching. However, I could definitely benefit from some general guidance advice on how I should approach my training for the next year. To answer the question, yes, and I do tons of these. I would say I do at least once a month. I do one of these, sometimes two or three of them in a month. So a lot of people are aware of it and they've asked. So I've answered this a few times actually. So yes, I do 1 hour video calls. I charge $75 for those. And no, I'm not going to have people who go, hey, could I get half price for half an hour? It's like, no, because I got to block off my time. I've got to schedule my life around it, so I don't do partials of the hour, and a lot of times they end up going a little bit over, and it can be pretty much anything you want. Some of it's for people who are thinking about coming on coaching later. I've had plenty of people who did them who said they might come on and have me coach them later who didn't follow through. Some of them did. But it can cover anything you want regarding your training, form, looking at all your formal lifts, helping you find your weak links. I actually have guys who've done them for gear advice. I've had ones who wanted to discuss just training philosophy. I had a couple who did them and basically said, look, I don't really want to talk much about my training. You're just my favorite YouTuber. I want to be able to chat with you for an hour. And so we laughed about it and we just talked about life and everything. And that's fine, but the vast majority are usually looking for advice on their training programming, usually looking at, hey, what's going on with their weak links, what do they need to do different with their form. Those are generally what people do. And some of them are for people who have thought about coming on for coaching later and just wanted to get some ideas about it, or they needed a better budget or to be further in their training. So yeah, I do quite a few of these. I've done a lot of them. And you can reach me through the Facebook fan page for those, through DMs, because that's where I'll set everything up. And I usually take Zelle or PayPal for those. All right, next question. I'd love to hear your take on Doug Brignole, I guess that's how you say his name, and his physics-based muscle isolation theory. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know why you guys assume that I know who these people are or that I care. To my knowledge, he's a bodybuilding prep coach. That's all I know about the guy. And I may have read an article or two over the years he's written. So rather than answer his question, let's talk about muscle isolation theory. Since you asked specifically about that, we don't need to talk about these people. And actually, you guys who do my Q&As are used to this. A lot of people realize I don't care about these people's philosophies. Let's discuss a specific question. So, can you isolate a muscle? No, you cannot isolate a muscle. It is biologically impossible. In fact, the term isolation is a goofy bodybuilder term. It's not used in exercise science. They're not called isolation exercises and compounds. They're called single joint and multi-joint, right? Single joint and multi-joint, because that's really what we're looking at biomechanically. Now, ironically, a lot of muscles actually get better activation if multiple joints are used, like the triceps, for example, right? If only your elbows bend, you can't actually work the entire tricep. Using that as an example. So it needs to be slightly multi-joint just to work all heads and elements of a tricep. But as far as isolating a muscle, you can't do that. There is no such thing as isolating a muscle. Maybe the only scenario in which you could do that would be if you lock someone into something to where only one joint could move and you use electrodes to stimulate the muscle. So you can't isolate a muscle. You can't. And I'm not saying we shouldn't do smaller exercises. Of course we should. I do them. I prescribe them. We benefit from them. Right? I do single joint movements for things like my delts. I do them for arms. Right? I've even done shrugs in the past. I prescribe for clients of mine who don't have glute ham raises. I prescribe hamstring curls. I like to be a little picky about what type of machine they use because some are better than others for that. Right, if they have access to different things. But single joint exercises absolutely have their place. And here's where they have their place. When we have only so much recoverable volume we can handle from all the muscles, and we have other muscles in our multi-joint exercises that need additional work. Triceps being a big one, for example. Some of the heads of the delts, right? A lot of times our delts could use extra work. They absolutely could. That we're not getting from things like pressing and pulling. But I'd say triceps are one of the big ones. Most pressing doesn't fully work the long head of the tricep. It doesn't. Even overhead pressing, and that's something I should discuss later on. That was something I believe I was wrong about in the past. So it needs to be addressed maybe in its own video later. But the long head of the tricep seems to only be activated on benching when we get to really, really heavy weights. And we can't get much hypertrophy with really heavy weights. We're talking 90% and above. We need extensions. And if you look at the hypertrophy research, extensions in general give great long head development, right? And it's a wide variety of extensions do. They give great hypertrophy. Pressing doesn't, but we need the long head to get better at benching. So again, an example of where even our 1 rep maxes will benefit tremendously from a smaller single joint exercise in one of the muscles involved, right? Because sometimes we need it to develop certain heads, and it's that simple. But you can't actually isolate a muscle. That's complete bullshit. It can't be done. It's a stupid term. All right, next question. What is your strength standards for a double overhand hang from a pull-up bar? How much hang time do you consider strong? Well, here's the problem with that. You're talking about hang time. You didn't mention body weight. You didn't mention body weight. Do you think that's a big factor? If a guy is 300 pounds and he can hang for 30 seconds, is he stronger than someone who's 185 pounds who holds for 30 seconds? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Now, I personally just count 1,000, 1,000 and so on in my head when I do dead hangs. I try to do right now at least 3 30-second holds every day, if not more. The most I've managed to hold is 45 seconds, and I've only done that once per day when I do it. And that's walking around, that's doing that at around 220, right? Around 220 pounds body weight. So I would say, 30 seconds is good at a time. If you start being able to exceed 30 seconds dramatically, maybe you need to add weight. Because with grip training, again, we need to look at it and say, is this carrying over to my grip training the way that I want? Because you're talking about for hold time, you're not working on grip strength. That's why you're doing it. Not just for the shoulder health, right? 30-second holds are phenomenal for shoulder health. But if we're talking about grip training, then you need to add more weight. So if you don't weigh enough to get that hang time down to less, you need to start adding weight anyways. And I can't say what a good hold is. I would say if, your total hold is 220, whatever you need to do, body weight plus plates for 30 seconds, I don't think you're going to have a lot of trouble holding on to a 600-pound deadlift, right? I'd say you're pretty good. You can hold 200 pounds for 30 seconds. I think you will never, ever have a grip issue on, say, a 500 deadlift. It's just not going to happen. Right? So to just give you some idea, I suppose. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.